Welcome to the Catch Some Soulshine podcast, and I'm your host, Dawn Renee Bova. I'm joined today by Linn Rivers, who is a functional health and wellness expert and educator. She teaches people all over the world on how to take health into their own hands, mind, body, and spirit. With over 15 years of holistic health field and her own arduous past, she's able to guide those who are ready to a happier and healthier way of living. And I'm so happy that you're here today. I've also been on my holistic healing pathway for probably many years.
Mm.
Something that people might not know about me is 30 years ago, the Church of Unity had this Universal Dances of Peace with Muslims, Christians, and Jewish people. And we met and we did circle dances and drumming and listened to stories. It was such an awesome experience. And I've never forgot it. I went on to do healing touch, focused on holistic nursing with my master's degree. And I don't have any training in NLP, but I experienced it with a provider. And it was incredible. So I'm just going to let you talk a little bit about that and see, what the listeners can learn about that.
Well, let me go ahead and introduce myself and why I do what I do.
Yes.
I grew up in a very tumultuous, the first 30 plus years of my life were just pretty constant turmoil. I had pneumonia as a baby when I was 1 and 2, which created a cascade of fears because of the trouble that it gave my parents at the time. And it just turned into an immediate PTSD. I grew up with an alcoholic. The majority of my family died before I was 15 years old. The rest soon followed. I had a partner who died of the same cancer that my mom died of when I was 15. My mom died when she was 40. And I had hormonal issues, endometriosis, massive depression, suicidal. It was a pretty constant thing going through my 30s. And I had started holistic nutrition and functional medicine when I was about 18 years old and just continued that progression. And it moved into massage therapy, spiritual counseling, neuro-linguistic programming, yoga therapy, the whole 9 yards. It just kind of kept going. And my journey was to understand the human body on a complete form, really understanding what makes us tick and what we actually need in order to be healthy and to live a fulfilling life. And it didn't really click until about 5 years ago when I was really diving into functional medicine. And all of the missing pieces just started clicking in for myself. And I had gone doctor to doctor in the natural world and in the Western world when I was younger, and no one was able to fill in the missing pieces for me. So I took that into my own hands and I realized I need to do this for myself, and thus being able to really help a lot of people overcome massive chronic health conditions and mental health disorders of so many different kinds. And so that is what I'm doing today. I'm really assisting people on a wide spectrum, creating courses for people so they don't have to spend thousands of dollars to get the information, and learning to really take their health into their own hands and what that means. And so it's been really overcoming the traumatic experiences, emotional and the physical, to really be able to show people that you do not have to live in these environments and you don't have to stay stuck in the past. You can move forward and you can actually be happy and healthy. And so that is what I am doing today.
That is perfect. That is what this podcast is all about. Awakening brilliance after life's darkest moments. And, your journey sounds so similar to mine. My dad suffered from the disease of alcoholism, and he died in a car accident in his 40s on the way home from work. And, I have a family full of addiction and alcoholism that led me on a path of trying to help people and myself. I don't drink alcohol. It doesn't do anything good for me, as I discovered. My son passed away at 23, and then, I called him my adopted son. He passed away a couple years later, and then last year, my grandson died at the babysitter's.
Wow.
So it's been a journey, and it was actually just last year that I participated in my first, because I love all the things, anything somebody can do to improve their well-being. Man, you gotta do it, because life is for living.
Hmm.
Life is for enjoyment, happy, joyous, free. Right now, I'm on, I'm reading a book by Alan Carr about emotional eating
Mm.
and sugar, junk food, and how we're just brainwashed. We're brainwashed. And it took some doing, but I'm doing better, but, like, what you're doing is the whole, except one thing. I started doing artwork after, losing the boys, and it creativity of any sort, it doesn't necessarily have to be painting, drawing, but creativity creates those new neural pathways in the brain and
Hmm.
helps you, strengthen those pathways. You're still
Yeah.
gonna have the trauma, right? But we've gotta get new, bigger ones to
Hmm.
overcome that. I'd really like you to talk about a little bit of, what you do to help people on their journey.
Yeah. Well, first off, just because I didn't mention art specifically, that is part of the mentality for the mind, body, and spirit. And
That's
there's many
awesome.
different ways that people can bring that forth, not just through art, but through play, through activity, through
Yes.
climbing for myself, through, just being active. So there's many different ways that that can come forth for people.
Mhm.
Creativity is not a one size fits all. And for myself, with helping people and how I do it, I actually created a course where it involves learning how to reprogram your self talk and understanding that your words are powerful and the way that you're speaking to yourself and the way you're speaking to others and the people that you surround yourself with. It really embodies, the course embodies mind, body, and spirit. Like I said, it's really learning how to integrate your voice into your world and understanding that everything you're absorbing around you is really impacting your existence. You create your reality, and what you're choosing to keep in it is a big part of what you're continuing to create. And one of the biggest parts of it is reminding people that we are vibration, we are frequency. It's not a woo woo thing, it's actually scientifically based that we are energy.
Yeah.
And what you are emanating is what you are attracting. So it's really about coming back to yourself, really grounding into who you are, learning about yourself. Again, mind, body, and spirit. Like that's one of the things that I like to reiterate, because you need to understand your body, because your body is its own entity. It is a vessel that is carrying us through this life, and
Mhm.
it has its own composition. And if that composition is not in balance, it can cause so many destructive patterns in our lives. And I really like to talk about trauma from the perspective that a lot of people are not talking about, that if your body's not in balance and you have a dysbiotic gut of any sort of dysbiosis, that triggers so many neurological responses that continue, it perpetuates your traumatic explosive episodes. And for myself, I worked through all of the traumatic events of my past. I uncovered it, I understood it, I saw the beauty in all of it, and I still kept having these explosive depressions and aggressive behaviors and so many different kinds of energies that would come up. And I kept trying to link that back to like, okay, did I not uncover something? I was always trying to find like another reason that maybe I didn't uncover. And it turns out it was my body. And I had a specific bacteria that when it's overgrown, it causes neurological symptoms. You eat specific foods and it sets it off, and you get depressed. You get aggressive. There are certain foods that cause these things to happen. And when I figured that out about myself and I stopped eating it, I remember thinking for the first time, wait, this is how I'm supposed to feel on a regular basis? Like I'm supposed to be calm and happy? Like this is normal? Because my entire life I was on constant flight or flight. And
Right.
so it was just something where I thought that was just going to be my existence. And it was a profound moment when I started diving into the microbiome and really understanding how that impacts our trauma and not just the other way around. Yes, they play into each other, but no one talks about the fact that if your body's not in balance, you're not going to be able to overcome those traumatic events without them continuing to replay and build up these emotions.
Yeah. And it's funny that you bring this up because I know this stuff. I studied it. I'm a nurse practitioner, but I have not, like, that was the last thing that I was focused on is my eating. I was, emotionally eating for the trauma. I was and all the wrong things, all the wrong things. So I'm like on the baby steps of this, healthy eating. And like the first week of no sugar, I was like grouchy and lethargic. And then by the second week, it was like, I don't even miss it, you
Mhm.
know? They bring cookies to work and donuts, and I'm like, "Mm." But, a week prior, I couldn't walk past the break room without grabbing a
Good for
donut.
you.
I am fascinated by it, and I think sugar's just like the first step. There's like you talking about when you discovered you had a certain allergy, did you do testing for that, or did you just eliminate certain foods? How did you find that out?
So it's not about food allergies. It's actually about the fact that this is like it takes a lot to go into this conversation. And so
Okay.
to keep it as short as I can, there
Mhm,
are certain compounds within plants, for example, right?
mhm.
And even people who think they're eating healthy, it may not be healthy for their body. And so for someone who has gut dysbiosis, the chances are they have leaky gut. And a large percentage of people have leaky gut. And what happens is when they start overloading their body with plants, everyone gets on this plant kick, right?
Yes.
And they're eating all of this kale and all of these greens and all of these different things that we would not normally have access to before importation. So now we're eating so many different varieties of foods that our bodies would not normally process. And our bodies are actually not made to process plants. We don't have the rumination, right? And so what happens is in the plants, there's things called salicylates, oxalates, histamines, amines, phytates, a bunch of different plant compounds that are actually neurotoxins. They're toxins that prevent the plant from being eaten. And so our body normally can break down small amounts of those fine, right? But when we start overwhelming our body with them and eating the high salicylates foods, for example, I'm going to use salicylates because that was the one that was really triggering my aggressive behavior. I would just get so irritable out of nowhere and I couldn't understand why that was happening. Or I would get so depressed that I'd have to go lock myself in the room. And with salicylates, they're in foods like zucchini, olives, those are really high ones, coconut. Just the majority of vegetables have salicylates, but there's some that are just really high.
Hmm.
And for people, for example, who can't do aspirin, aspirin is a ton of salicylates rolled into one piece. So if you cannot take aspirin, you definitely should not be eating salicylates. Now, if you can do that, you should still do it in small quantities because it is a neurotoxin and your liver has to process it. So when your body's not processing that, it seeps into your bloodstream and it causes it's a neurotoxin. It causes neurological problems. And with salicylates, the way it shows up is it's actually directly linked to autism. It's attached to aggressive behavior, depression. Like I said, the black eyes, the what do you call them? The black rings around your eyes that people
Yeah.
normally have. That is from salicylates. Running noses, nose polyps, stuffy face, histamine issues in general. All of these things actually stem from a salicylate intolerance that no one really knows about. And so they're eating all these foods thinking like, oh, I'm eating healthy. Why do I not feel well? And it's because we're not meant to have this big a variety of food that are full of these compounds that our body's not ready to digest, right? So when you look back at the way we used to eat, we had a protein, we had a carb, and we had a vegetable, right? And
Right.
so it was a easy balance for our body to process. We don't do that anymore. And so
No.
a lot of people they think they're eating healthy. So it's you're on your baby steps, right? But the reality is it's even if people think they're eating healthy, the chances are they're still doing some damage to their body that's going to show up in one form or another.
That's fascinating. One of the things that I noticed the most after Brad passed away, and that's been 7 years, is, my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I do not sleep well at all, and I truly do believe that it's related to food,
Mm-hmm.
um, inactivity because I have a desk job, and, I'm hoping that that improves while I, take this new step forward to help my body. But I've heard, there's another compound in food they talk about a lot, like in tomatoes and, lectin.
Lectin or lycopene. Yeah.
Maybe it's yeah, the, like, lycopene or something.
Lectins too. Lectins are also, so some people can handle lycopene, but yeah, it might be lectins that you're thinking of because they can be really hard on the body too.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
This is fascinating for me because, like I said, unless you use it if you don't use this stuff, you lose it, right?
Mm,
And I studied it and then it went on the set aside shelf, right? And so I don't, think about it. We don't think about what we're eating. Like, I'm making a conscious decision now, but like you said, who knows if I'm eating the right things. So, I think what you're
right.
doing is really important.
Well, and then there's the other side of this where you cut out sugars, but are you talking that you cut out table sugar or you cut out carbs in general? Because carbs, people don't realize, are
Yeah.
sugars.
Yes.
Right? And they are just as detrimental to our system as much as table sugar.
Yes.
And that, I'm going to give you a big telltale sign here. That is actually one of the reasons why people are so sick in this society. It's one of the top reasons because it creates insulin resistance. And
Yes.
over 88% of the population is insulin resistant, which leads to prediabetes, which leads to diabetes. And the number of people who know that they're insulin resistant, they rarely know that they are until they reach the pre-diabetic stage.
Mhm. I'm teetering on that. And I knew that I was predisposed to that when I had my babies because I had a 10-pound, 12-ounce baby, I had a 10-pound baby. My smallest baby was 8'3", and I only gained like 20 some pounds with the pregnancy. So, I knew that I was gonna be probably have to watch that at some point, and it's just finally now, I'm starting to watch my carbs and table sugar, like all sugars. And you know what? You wanna know something? Everything has sugar in it. If you read the labels of Italian salad dressing,
Mhm.
sugar. It's like
Yeah.
everything. So,
Yeah.
I'm trying to make my own recipes, but it's a commitment.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I've been doing it for so long that it doesn't even phase me. People don't
Yeah.
understand how everyone thinks I have a rigid diet, but for me, it's not anything of that because it was life or death for me, right? It was the last time I almost died that I realized that, oh, I really need to pay attention to this. It's not even just like I have to pay attention. If I'm going to be here, I need to to really check in on this. Ever since then, it's just like I live a very different lifestyle compared to the majority of people. And it doesn't
Mhm.
faze me one bit when people are like, how are you so disciplined? I don't even see it as disciplined. It's so natural to me,
Yeah.
to because it's my body. And if I want to say 5 years from now that I'm doing better than I am today, even, then
Mhm.
heck yes, I'm going to do what I need to do. But it's like a lot of people, they don't think to look 5 years from now and ask if 5 years from now, if I'm in the same space or worse, am I going to be happy? Typically the answer would be no. So then they'd have to move
Right.
forward in a different direction. But
I
really,
love
taking care of your body should not be half seeing it as a
and
discipline.
when you exercise regularly, because 'cause I've done it for
Mhm.
several pounds ago, I ran a half marathon, and people look at me now and they go, "You ran a half marathon?" I go, "Yeah, I did. I was a runner, but I'm not anymore," and I know that you feel so much better when you are
Right.
participating in exercise
I
every
know.
single day.
I know.
In your
Exactly.
course, do you teach people about the different, substances in the foods
Yes,
and
I do.
all that? That's
It is
awesome.
everything. So I'll tell you that the reason I did the course was because I was charging people $3,000 for consultations because of the testing that was involved in functional medicine.
Right.
And I started thinking, I was like, the people who really need this don't have $3,000 to pay for this. So how
Right.
can I get this information across where everyone can get it? So currently, right now, I actually have my course on pre-launch. It comes out in a few weeks, but if people buy it during the pre-launch, it's only $50 because I
Oh
want
my
everyone to
gosh.
have
That's a
access.
steal. I'm
Exactly.
buying
I
it.
know. I know, right? So I did this and I went into the course thinking, how can I teach people how to figure this information out without having to do so much testing?
Yeah.
Because testing is great. However, I found methods where I can show people how to use certain tools that will
Mhm.
allow them to check the things that they would normally get within a test. So I get them through like finding out their nutrient deficiencies, what's their carb intake, what's their perfect diet for them to find what works for them. I go through all of the chemical compounds and what certain ones do and how your neurological system plays into your gut and vice versa, and your liver and what it actually does, cellular functioning, everything. Like it's literally everything that someone would get coming into practice and getting a $3,000 course for $50.
And
So it's
we're gonna have a link for this in the podcast notes, right? People
absolutely,
are
yeah.
gonna want this
I
for
did
sure.
it for $50 because I wanted people to have a no excuse price to
Yeah.
actually take their health into their own hands. Like
Yeah.
even if you learn one thing from it that's worth $50,
Right.
it's a stepping stone. It gives you all the information you'll ever need, but even if you just take one thing from it and start there, good. You're on your way forward, you're taking a step forward and that's what I want people to do. Just take a step forward.
Right.
That's the best thing anyone can do in this life. And I'm not responsible for anyone getting better. I can just give them the information, but they're
Mhm.
the ones that need to take that step. And so I'm giving them the opportunity to do that.
That is wonderful. I mean, what an opportunity. I'm so glad you're on the show. I'm so happy. It isn't, like you said, it's not one size fits all. Like, I know not everybody wants to do art. I know that not everybody loves to do music, but I'm from kind of an artsy family, so we
That's
love
beautiful.
music, we love art.
Hmm.
I love, watching plays. I love all that stuff. And now I get to share diet information thanks to you, so I'm so excited for that. It's not my forte. I I can promote it, and I love it, and I'm so happy to have you, but, my modality is through, the creative side, which is likely also
Yeah.
important, but this diet is really, really important. So many health conditions I see, and pre-diabetes is like an epidemic in our country. Diabetes is an
50% right now.
epidemic. And, I see all these people going for the Ozempic and the Wegovy, and they want that for their and I'm like, "I don't wanna mess up my body with that. I wanna just do it the natural way, the way that I'm gonna heal myself."
Everyone wants the quick fix pills though, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is, everyone wants the quick fix pills.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's not going to get you anywhere because you're going to reach a point and you're not going to have fixed the root cause and you're going to fall back into the same routines and you're eventually going to do even more damage to your body. And if you want to live a long and happy, healthy life, which most people do, which is that's the comical thing to me. People are like, I want to live long and happy and I want to be the first person to get to 200, and then they have all of these bad habits that they keep doing and it's just like, do you really want to live that long? Because it doesn't seem like you really really want to.
Right.
And it's like, just pay attention to your behaviors and what you really want and what's actually going to get you there.
Well, and not even I wanna live that long, I wanna live a quality life that long,
Exactly.
you know? I don't wanna be holed up at home and not be able to
Right.
do anything because I don't feel good or, I
I
can't
know.
move. Yeah, it's so much more than that.
What's the point in being 100 if you can't do anything with it? you know
Right? Right.
I always think about that yogi who's 100 and she's still like doing, I'm like, that's amazing. Like
I
I'm
know.
okay with living to 100 if I'm still doing that, but my
Yeah.
goal is not to live to be like 100 plus. That's just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I know my flexibility is, yeah, not so good. I started this yoga flow challenge. I'm like, man, I can't even get on the floor anymore and do the Indian style pose. So
Yeah.
I'm tight. My husband said, maybe we should start with chair yoga. I said, hey, I'm willing, anything to get going. So
Yeah, that's a great idea. Good for you guys.
yeah, and just like you said with your program, which is a steal. I mean, I'm telling you what, if people don't get that, they're crazy. Like you said, if you just pick one thing, I was telling people, well, you got to cut out this and you got to do this. And I go, eventually. Right now, I'm focused on complex sugar, all sugars,
Step by
and
step. You're doing great.
carbs,
You're
and
doing
then
great.
I'll get better. But your course is going to help me.
Oh,
So, so
I
excited.
honestly, I stand behind this course 100%. It's 15 years of education, research, and personal experience with myself and clients. Like,
Yeah.
there's going to be at least one thing for everyone, but more, I'm guarantee you more than one thing. I'm literally giving people the blueprint to get better, and what they take
Yeah.
from it is up to them. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But you're doing great. That's amazing that you're doing your journey. Thank you. Because seriously, it's a beautiful thing to see people taking the step forwards to better themselves.
I've told this story before on here, but I am a busy, busy, go, 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 go person. And after Brad passed away, I threw myself into service work. And I still do a lot of service work for the mental health and addiction recovery community because I feel like it's so important. But what I neglected was myself.
Which is the
There,
biggest miss.
yeah, and there's a fine line. I do believe in service work, but we have to take care of us too. And
Yes.
I'm finally getting to that point where, I see that how important it is. Art started it for me, but this is, I feel like, the last major step to being whole. But this part
Yeah.
is going to be a game changer.
Just to emphasize this one more time, when your body's in check and whole and healthy,
Yeah.
you tap into your spiritual self and your mental self on such a cleaner space. I mean, when your body is grounded and rooted, you will become a much deeper channel.
Yeah.
Again, because you're coming from a healthy space that is emanating, your body emanates its own energy, and so does your soul. And when those are in balance, it's kind of like that heart brain coherence, right? Like, it's just another aspect of that where you're just going to be that much brighter. And the happier you are, the healthier you are, the more you emanate healing energy, and that is the best gift that you can give to the world. Your
Mhm.
energy is like the best healing that you can offer. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I feel your energy. I know it's phenomenal, and I'm so happy to have you. I might have to have you again because this is a
This was so
fantastic
fun.
conversation.
No,
But, thank you, Lynn, so much for joining me today. I look forward to sharing that link with everyone so that they can, really forge forward and live a healthier, happier lifestyle.
great. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining me today with my special guest, Lynn. She's a wealth of information, and I look forward to her program for, healthy eating because that is the foundation of our healing. If you'd like to start your healing journey, please check out her link for her class, which is a steal at $50. I'm telling you. I also have some freebies for you. I have a journal that you can print and get started on journaling because that is equally as important with positive affirmations. I have the ripple experiment, which, as I said before, I firmly believe that we need to be giving service work, and the ripple experiment allows us to ripple out kindness into the world. It is a club. You have two choices. You can join the Ripple Club, which is a monthly membership, or you can just join the private Facebook group for a one-time fee. If you're interested in spreading kindness, love, and joy around the world, who isn't? Please check out ripple.dawnreneebove.com. And again, thanks for joining me today. Ripple on.